Minnesota's Rust. What is a street rod? Douglas Glad has written for many parts of Hot Rod Motor Trend. Currently, he's over at Hemmings, helping them do all the things there. Street rod. So he is looking at definitions too. This is part of an article from Hot Rod in 2021. He looks at a street rod as anything 49 or older, modified for style, safety, and reliability. So here's his 32 Roadster. He would say that is kind of your good example of a street rod. Notice he didn't say hot rod there. So a street rod modified for safety, style, and reliability. Another example he talks about is the shoebox Ford, like this one. So your 49 to 51 Ford. Notice he still includes that, even though 50 and 51 are there, but they look about the same. So nice shoebox Ford there. He would consider as that street rod. What you would see on a street rod would be channeling. So here you see the body hanging down a couple inches below the frame. So you raise up that floor, you lower the body line, and it makes it look lower without chopping the top. So you could chop and channel. We'll talk about chopping later. So body hanging down below that frame rail. Banjo steering wheels. So these steering wheels that appeared on your Little Deuce Coupe, pretty valuable. A lot of reproduction ones out there, but you'll see these on a lot of street rods just because of that style that it looks like it kind of got spokes like a wheel on your steering wheel there. Your drop axle. You can see the end of that axle right to the right of the shock comes up, which brings the frame down. So it lowers that frame hanging down. It gives you that cool look, that low rider look in the front, and then often you'll see comparable jacked up in the back, but we got that going on there. You'll also see independent front suspension on a lot of street rods. So not just that drop axle in the previous example, but that independent front, which will give you better handling, smoother handling, safety. You see the rack and pinion sticking out there for steering. Having those control arms there, they give you a better handling machine. So these dash panels are off of old Auburn. So you can get them original reproduction, but that kind of brushed aluminum, almost a chrome look there. Very common you'll see in street rods. Got room for all the gauges, all the information that you need right there, but you will see those in place often. Depending on what state that you live in, you can't have open fenders like you want to, so you'll see motorcycle fenders on some of these street rods. So there's a good example of that teeny tiny fender. Yes, it'll keep some of the water from shooting up 20 feet when you're driving down the road, but it meets DOT code, so you're good. Windshields. If you look real closely at that windshield, it doesn't quite look automotive because they're from boats. So it is pretty common in some street rods to see a windshield from a boat. They're flatter, they're shorter, and they just look right with that. Gives you that kind of chop top look. You'll also see, if you look at that steering box right there, out of a race car. These are out of sprint cars. So you have simplicity in your steering gear, and then plus you could probably adjust it easier depending on size of your steering wheel with that too. But you'll see those that kind of stick out the side. Here's a good example of what they kind of call that suicide front end. So the tie rods are in front of the axle, and the steering arms are reversed. So you get into a little bit of a bump, all of a sudden your wheels can't steer anymore, your wheels turn towards each other. You can see if you ended up pushing in that tie rod, but it has kind of a neat look to it. Blue dots, if you look at the center of that taillight right there, you'll see those blue dots. The taillight can look kind of purple with that blue dot there, but that is classic street rod kind of idea right there. Also, if you jump over to the front, the headlights of the car, you'll see these headlights are sitting up on little stalks, little stanchions. It'll get your lights, instead of being up on the fenders or up by the hood, you're bringing them down closer to the ground. Going to give that smoother, lower, kind of a street rod kind of a look with that. So that's pretty cool. So traffic light finders, you use these to kind of see your traffic lights. on a vehicle that's really low. So this reflects the light so you can see above your windshield there. You don't see these very often on vehicles around Minnesota, but they are there. They are around. Your Woody is a pretty classic street rod too. Here is a, gosh, don't quote me. So there's your old Ford there, and yes, just like a lot of the roof and some of the floor pans made out of woods, these made out of wood. You had your doors were part of that too. Your Roadster had your convertible tops. You could have regular windows and then they still went up and down. There's your classic street rod look right there. You want to go drive your car, even when the weather's not so good, you still have that in place for that. Or the sun's beating down on your head too much, you could cover it up. So these old friction shocks, instead of having your tubes, your traditional tube shocks to move over, you could see on the left side that just kind of squeezes there. And there'd be rubber and some clutch-like friction material that would just prevent that from moving up and down too quickly to kind of slow that down a little bit. And that was a classic look. Having your I-beams filled with holes gives you that classic look, saves a little bit of weight. Still pretty safe, a lot of metal there too. But, it's what people did, and you'll see those on street rods all over the place. So here you go. So again, you get to that epitome of a street rod there. Here's your 32, 33, 34. There's your 3-window coupe, side windows, back windows. This is a fully fendered car right there. Looks pretty tough, there you go. Douglas Glad has you some definitions for what he thinks street rods are. Thank you much. Minnesota is Russ.